warm welcome to you, Ms. Luthra. It's lovely to have you.
Good morning. How are you? It's
Very
lovely to be with all of you once again.
Ma'am, opening with a question to you on, going directly to one of the cases we hear about that has been in the news have been skin-to-skin judgment. Then there are other volley of such judgments that come every now and then trickle down in terms of maybe remarks passed on the rape accused or the victim. What would be your thoughts on this kind of a mindset with which, our lawyers or judges sometimes happen to function?
So let's talk about the skin-to-skin judgment for a bit, because there's been a lot of protest about it. Media, social media, which is now a big space for dissemination of information, has also been very active on the skin-to-skin judgment. Now, I want to say something which may be interesting, which is that on behalf of the National Commission of Women, I have represented them in the Supreme Court in challenging the judgment and taking it forward that such an interpretation would not be in keeping with the spirit of the legislation. So this is one aspect. Now, while I say this, I also want to say that this debate may be new to India. And even though some people have said that this is a settled matter by various judgments, it's actually not. So obviously, defense counsel, being defense counsel, will raise their novel arguments. So they said when it says contact or when it says physical touch, so it's really talking to skin contact and skin to skin touch. Now that's not really the necessary or the logical argument or conclusion. And this matter went on in the UK also, where the United Kingdom Court of Appeals in two judgments, similar judgments. This was someone touching and groping a person on their breast, but that was somebody putting their hand in the track pant of a girl. And again, the Court of Appeals, after much debate in two such judgments on skin-to-skin touch, repelled the argument that skin-to-skin touch needs physical contact. I'm sure our Supreme Court will come to the same conclusion. But I do believe that debate, I may not agree with the view of the judge, but I do believe that this is why we have an appeal process. That if you don't agree or you find something which is absolutely perverse is a legal word, by the way. When we write our appeals, we always are using the words, the judgment is wrong, perverse, etc., etc. But using the word perverse in a legal sense is different from using it in the generic sense. I agree the judgment is wrong. I feel that the judgment needed to be appealed against very urgently and the law set down once and for all. But I also believe that propriety demands us to be restrained when we start speaking badly of a judge, because the judgment may be misplaced, but you can't then troll a judge for it. So this is one aspect where I believe that I definitely do not agree with her viewpoint. But while I don't agree with her viewpoint, I also know that I have an avenue of appeal and I will take recourse to it. Now comes the other aspect about uh, about this recent discussion on, for example, somebody being told that you can't change your religion to marry. Now, the moment a person is a major, then they have a right to make a decision who to put in power in the government and who to elect. If I have that right, if I have a right to go on the road, drive, and be a risk to myself and to society, I am then considered safe enough a person to be able to take a decision about myself. If I can take a decision about my country, I can take a decision about my fellow men when I'm driving, then definitely I can take a decision about myself. So the argument can only be, let's educate our women more. It cannot be that let's take away this right from our women.
Yeah.
We have to empower them, not disempower them. In any case where there is a fraud or somebody has been induced to change their religion to marry, because the Special Marriage Act does provide that two people from two different religions can get married and it will not impinge on any of their religions. What is our job? Our job is to educate and to empower women. Our job is not to take away their strength, take away their right to make a decision about the dignity and their mental and physical happiness. So I believe that this thought is like the cup panchayats deciding that no, these two people belonging to the same village can't marry. When the Supreme Court in Selvaraj and in several other judgments has come down so heavily, this is part and parcel of the same mindset that our girls are too innocent and therefore we are the arbiters of their rights. Now that cannot be. The same mindset allowed adultery to be an offense because then women's bodies were treated like a chattel.
Yeah.
So the moment that you are saying with one breath that this is an act of disempowerment of women or treating them as unequals, then you cannot bring in legislation which is treating them as unequals and saying that even at 18 they can't decide. There are two debates raging in the country at the same time. One debate which says lower the age of consent because young girls and boys, particularly in cities, are having chances to meet each other, to fall in love even before they are 18. So there was one spate of judgments by the Delhi High Court which said that if someone's 17, you can't be saying it's rape, particularly if they are 17 and a half. And at 18, you say she can marry. Then can you say it's rape at 17 and a half? Then the other debate was, are girls maturing and boys maturing earlier? Should the Juvenile Justice Act not protect people who commit heinous crimes? Because ultimately they are maturing. So if you are thinking that they are maturing, then to say that they are not mature enough when it comes to matters of their bodily integrity would be again a contradiction in terms. And that's why when you look at the Juvenile Justice Act, when you look at liabilities or taking away the bar of juveniles being tried for, say, offense of rape in Nirbhay, where some people say that the person who did the most heinous act was the person who got away the most, because he was a juvenile. Now, all these are issues where we need to have a considered, studied policy with taking stakeholders, taking youngsters, seeing their ages, seeing their maturity, seeing the dichotomy between the cities and those who are being brought up maybe in a more protected environment in villages. So this aspect I feel we need to look at. The other issue with regard to questions that may be asked, are you willing to marry? Now this is, to my mind, this has become a taboo word in today's day. But let's look at the realities on the ground. There are two kinds of rape cases that are coming. Rape by a person, known or unknown, where there is no past history of any friendship. And there is rape where people are friendly with each other, have been having premarital relations, and there is a promise to marry. Now, both kinds of rape or allegations of rape or trials of rape or question of bail are completely different. But it does appear that will you marry her will be a taboo question in the future, and perhaps rightly so. He asked, when you are looking at pure criminality, either it is something which deserves bail or it is something which doesn't deserve bail. But just because the petitioner, who is a boy, making a story that it is a girlfriend-boyfriend relationship gone sour and that we are not marrying for that reason, may not be taken on its face.
So, very true, Ms. Luthra, how you pointed it out and laid it down for us, the age of consent, when we so casually mention that children nowadays, if, an 8-year-old can be throwing tantrums of a teenager, and, they know it all, and all of that in lighter vein gets probably called out as, oh, how smart my child is. But when it comes to the other side, when friction of law, that's not considered. So it's like you mentioned, a very systematic and a serious study needs to be done on this. So thank you so much for bringing all that to light.
There's one other aspect that I thought we could look at on this was under the Indian Majority Act, girls are considered major at 18, boys at 21.
Yeah.
Now, and therefore also, say the Hindu Marriage Act says age of marriage for a girl is 18 and a boy is 21. Time has come that we examine, is this discriminatory of women? Is it discriminatory of men? Is it got a mindset that women should always be dominated and therefore be younger so that perhaps they may be dominated? I can't see what is the rationale of thinking that women would mature not at the same time as boys, because very frequently it's said that women mature earlier. Very frequently it's said that boys are not. Then the question here is, why should one be 21 and the other be 18? And why should when majority is 18 years, why should both not be able to marry at the same age, whether it's 18 or any other age that may be set down? Though most of the world keeps it at a standard 18.
Yeah.
Some countries do have a slightly younger age.
That's true. Very well pointed out, Ms. Luthra, that why have that difference? We're aiming for equality, and if two consenting adults, as we say, are going to have probably the right, they have the right to vote and choose every, part of the nation and the government. Why not the right to marry? That also, on a lighter note, brings us sometimes to a conversation where people say drive down the age of drinking and all of that. But
That's true. That is true, because you'll make it safer than having people hide and drink,
yeah.
and then have to lie and do infractions of the law. Because factually speaking, you can't be having such an age of drinking. I mean, that may not be only for Women's Day. It should be for Human Day, maybe.
That's going to come to that joke we often hear that, women can marry at 18, men can marry at 21, but if they get married, they can't drink in certain states because the age to drink is probably set at 25 in those states. But that's for another day on that note, and, hoping that we can move forward on sort of bringing together these laws and, not have state-wise laws on this, but, a nationwide law on age and a discussion we must have. So thank you so much, Ms. Luthra, for joining us today. As one parting note, what would be your advice to women of today and tomorrow? What is it that you'd like them to hold on to? One of your thoughts, please.